it would be pretty stubborn of the 49ers to keep him on the roster at 4 o'clock tomorrow.
I can't believe that Trey's preseason had nothing to do with Jimmy Garoppolo very strangely still being on the team. It's very unconventional.
Today's cut day. Today was supposed to be the day that we've been talking about, that Jimmy G would be made available, and the 49ers did an okey doke and turned around and kept him.
Trey was good. I gave him a heads up on it. I told him it's an outside chance, but I want him to know that if Jimmy doesn't get any good opportunities that he thinks better for him, I wanted Trey to know that I told Jimmy I love him back here.
When a team has a young quarterback that they want to start, they get rid of all distractions, especially a backup who would cause controversy. You want all the focus to be on his development, not a controversy of who should be starting. That's the norm. But the 49ers didn't care. Despite all eyes on Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo behind him, set to make over $24 million, San Francisco found a way to keep him just in case, and it saved their season. That decision is the difference between the Niners fighting for a playoff spot versus this season being over after week 2, because Lance is done. The second-year quarterback and a guy who was taken in the first round is done for the year after a gruesome ankle injury against Seattle. First of all, you really have to feel for Trey Lance. This is an injury that is going to affect him for years. It is a tough one to swallow, and it came right when he was truly getting his shot. As a rookie, he only started in 2 games. I mean, we did not get to see much, and finally, this was his time to be the starter, and in only the second game this year, this happens. To make matters worse, I mean, he really struggled to start the season, and a lot of that is due to weather, to be fair. Lance did not throw a single touchdown, and he had a pick. It's just absolutely devastating, and I mean, you just gotta feel so awful for him. Lance only threw 3 passes in week 2 before he got hurt on what looked to be a designed quarterback run. He faked a handoff, and then he ran up the middle, and it didn't look like anything at first until you see him lying on the field with a pretty clearly deformed ankle. As soon as you saw that, you knew it wasn't good. He was visibly in a ton of pain, and then the cart came out. Lance just got rolled up on. I mean, it was normal. Nothing crazy, just super unfortunate. And it's always so hard to watch a guy get carted off with that look on his face. I mean, just horrible, man. Jimmy G came in, and he ended up doing what he had to do. The Niners definitely relied a lot more on the run game, and it was working. They ended up being the Seahawks pretty good, 27-7. Garoppolo threw for about 150 yards and threw a touchdown. He didn't do anything flashy, but that's just the kind of player he is. He's kind of boring, but he'll end up getting the job done. The Niners got a lot of shit for bringing Jimmy G back, and I do think that was warranted. It's very hard to have a rookie quarterback who you want to be the guy laser focused when the big talk is whether or not their backup should be starting over them. Good organizations know that, and they usually take care of it. The Patriots ahead of last season, I think, were a really good example. New England liked Mac Jones and knew that if Cam Newton was still in the building, the second that Mac struggled, everyone would call for Cam. Like when Tua Tagovailoa was having issues, the second he did, everyone called for Ryan Fitzpatrick to start over him. That's just a tough thing for a young guy's confidence, and it's hard to know whether or not that would have affected or even bothered Lance, but now it doesn't matter, because the Niners bringing back Jimmy G looks genius. Back in 2018, San Francisco gave him a hefty 5-year, $135.5 million deal. At the time, it was the biggest annual deal and the most guaranteed money in NFL history. Obviously, a ton of deals have passed that now, but that was the bigger issue, I would say, of why San Francisco didn't want him back. He was set to make $24.2 million, so they were going to try to trade him or cut him. It was really hard to trade him because he did have that shoulder surgery in the offseason, so it looked like the Niners might cut him. And then, to a lot of people's surprise, Garoppolo and the 49ers came to an agreement on a new contract that was a pretty large pay cut. It looked like a weird deal between a team that wasn't sure if they wanted to let go and a guy who wasn't sure if he actually wanted to leave or not. It made sense for both sides. The base salary went all the way down to $6.5 million with a ton of incentives. $8.45 million worth of incentives to be exact, and a $500,000 roster bonus. So for y'all good at math, that means Jimmy G could still earn up to $15.45 million. Jimmy G even got kind of like a loose no trade clause, so the team had to talk to him before being able to just trade him off. There's been plenty plenty of rumors. The Seahawks were a big one, which never made sense between two NFC West teams, but hey, the media just ran with it anyway. Then Dak Prescott got hurt last week. Everyone brought up Jimmy G, but no. Here we are, and the Niners have to be so happy that they held on to him, but damn, the rest of the NFL's got to be worried. Let me make this very clear. Every team in the league would rather face Lance than Garoppolo. Nobody really knew what San Francisco had in Trey Lance, and that includes the 49ers. He had potential, but he didn't have that experience. Now, teams have to go back up against a veteran Jimmy G, who, by the way, do I need to remind you that he's led the Niners to the NFC Championship in 2 of the last 3 seasons? Plus, I guarantee you that he's playing with one hell of a chip on his shoulder because he knows he's hitting free agency, and that dollar amount is depending on how he does this year. I'm not gonna lie to you, this Niners team is probably going to be boring to watch. That's the nature of Jimmy G and just how he plays. There are going to be checkdowns and a lot of running the ball, but it's proven to work. There aren't any questions or unknowns anymore. Nobody has to wonder what Lance is going to be. Instead, San Francisco is going to quietly be good while running the football down teams' throats and trusting Jimmy G to not do anything stupid. Garoppolo is going to be good, not great, and that should be enough, honestly. It's not going to be sloppy like the 49ers were in week 1 with Lance behind center. Again, it's really hard to judge that game because of the weather conditions. It was a damn monsoon out there, but that doesn't change the fact that the 49ers lost 19-10 to the Bears, a team that everyone, including myself, thought were going to be one of the worst teams in football, and very well still may be. Lance definitely did struggle. He completed less than 50% of his passes and had 164 yards. He didn't find the end zone, but he did throw a pick. Lance ended up rushing a good bit actually. He took off 13 times for 54 yards, and after the game, he talked about how it wasn't college, and he needed to be more cautious running the ball. Lance claimed that he had to learn to protect himself because he knew how important it was for him to stay healthy. Yeah, how ironic and sad is that? The 49ers had pretty high expectations this season before Lance got hurt. Honest moment here, they were the team that I bet on to win the Super Bowl this year. And I also have a lot of Trey Lance in fantasy football. He was very explosive at NDSU. And I know that he was raw coming into the pros, but man, that talent is there. And it's a real shame that this is how his career is starting. But I don't think that changes what San Francisco hopes to achieve this season. In fact, I think it is actually more likely that the Niners make a run. I thought they were going to win the NFC West, and I still do think that. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams did, of course, but I've been pretty low on really both Super Bowl teams from last year, and I think neither one looks great, although I'd argue that the Rams are still a playoff team and the Bengals legitimately are just bad maybe, but not enough people were giving the 49ers credit this offseason. I mean, this is a good team. San Francisco is going to have a good run game like always. Deebo Samuel is incredible in every way. George Kittle is still there, and Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius. Defensively, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner alone are enough to make an opposing team worry, and I'm a firm believer that Javon Kinlaw is going to become one of the best defensive tackles in football. The Niners are just full of talent, and now they're going from an inexperienced young QB to a guy that has been to 2 of the last 3 NFC championships, played in a Super Bowl, and has been on a team that's won 3 Super Bowls. Jimmy G knows what it takes, and I think the Niners will be one of the best teams in the NFL this season with or without Trey Lance.